Hey guys, today we're going to talk about the semicircle. This is probably one of the tools that's been the most impactful for me. I'm still continuing to get changed by this. It's really been doing a lot of work on me. So I'm hopeful it's as useful for you as it's been for me. So the easiest way to root this tool is really to illustrate it, is really to look at the book of Genesis. And so if you can find the book of Genesis in your Bible, then that's a good place to start. So go all the way to the left. And Genesis 1 is the story or the poem of how God creates the universe and the world. And there is this thing that gets said on every day, and you're like, well, yeah, God saw that it was good. Well, yes, but there's another thing that gets said that people just skip over, they don't notice, and it's that it says, there was evening and there was morning the first day, right? And the second day, God called the expanse sky. There was evening and there was morning the second day. Third day, fourth day, fifth day, all the way through. There was evening and there was morning. There was evening and there was morning. The fourth day is evening and then morning. The fifth day is evening and morning. And you think, I mean, I don't know where you're from, but I think the day starts in the morning, right? Wouldn't you think it was morning and evening the second day, morning and evening? That's not what it says. It says evening and morning. And a lot of us know, like maybe in the back of our head, we're like, oh yeah, well, maybe we read something in the Gospels and it says Passover starts at sundown. You're like, oh yeah, because the day starts at sundown. That's an interesting thing. But we haven't really thought about what that means. The way that God structured the world, if we believe this is true, the way that God structured the world is that the human day starts in the evening. The day starts with rest. How does the day start? It starts with, okay, you finish your work, you come in, maybe you eat a meal together after sundown, and you all go to bed. And that's how the day starts. Your day starts with rest. And what we've read again and again is Jesus saying, that out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. Well, the reality is that everything that happens in our life actually comes out of the rest. It actually comes out of what we have, right? We can only produce out of our own abundance. And we get this wrong all the time because we're living for the weekend. We think that if I'm just going to work all week long and then I'm going to recuperate, or I'm really going to kill it at work for a whole season and then I'm going to take a vacation, right? Because what we're doing is we're kind of always depleting our glass and then getting back to normal, right? Recovering. So a lot of the time we're in a recovery mode. Well, the only time you need to recover is when you're sick, right? We actually are engaged, a lot of us are engaged in a pattern of work that's actually sick, right? It's not the way that God built us to be fruitful. And this is what he says in Genesis 1. He says, I want you to go and be fruitful. And that doesn't just mean, sex and babies. It means I want you to live a fruitful life that stuff is happening, right? So how do plants grow? Well, in the New Testament, we see this exact same thing. So we see, if I use my little, my handy little ribbon here, in John 15, this is what Jesus says. He says, I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit. And you're like, well, I definitely want to bear fruit. I don't want to get cut off. But then he says, well, every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. What does it mean to prune? It means to cut off, right? You're like, okay, I'm not getting out of that either way. Remain in me, he says, or some translations would say, abide in me, and I will remain or abide in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain or abide in me. See, what Jesus is describing here is the natural pattern of life. This is how it works, all right? The way it works is there is this pendulum that is always swinging back and forth, right? And over here you've got work. Nope. Don't listen to anything I say. Over here you've got work. And over here you've got rest. Or you could say, over here you've got fruitfulness. What does it mean to be fruitful? It means you bear fruit, right? And over here you've got abiding or remaining. And there is this pendulum that always is swinging back and forth. Sometimes it's over there, sometimes it's over here, sometimes it's right here. This pendulum is always swinging back and forth. And the problem is, we are all addicted to this thing and afraid of this thing. Like most Americans don't rest enough. I mean, I don't know about the rest of the world. Maybe the rest of the world's the same. But like I want to accomplish things. Nobody brags about how much they rested. Everybody brags about how much they accomplished, right? And so what I want to do is I want to live over here. I want to be here all the time. I'm a workaholic, right? And so what I do is I'm always trying to push. I'm always trying to push this way. Push hard. I'm just going to push harder. I'm going to get this thing done. I got this big project. I'm going to get it done. I'll be exhausted afterwards. Man, it's just this really long work week, but I'll take off time on the weekend. I'm going to push, and then I think I'll just fall back, right, and rest. The problem is that you can't actually push this way. This is what I've discovered. The only thing that you can really do is you can push this way. And you think, well, what does that even mean? Well, here's what I mean. That if you really want to be fruitful, if you really want to produce fruit, then what you need to do is you need to abide and rest. Like let's say you had a garden, right? Or no, let's say you're a farmer and you've got a big field, and every year that field produces less grain. You're growing oats or you're growing wheat, all right? And man, that's just not producing wheat like it used to. Man, we'll just need to push. Maybe we just farm it harder, man. No, what you need to do is you need to let it rest. Let's say you've got an apple orchard and you've got apple trees up. I was almost born on an apple orchard because my parents almost bought an apple orchard when I was a kid. And the guy there, what he did is he had all these trees, just rows of apple trees. And every spring he would go out and he would pinch off the blossoms from every other tree. So they would have no blossoms, and then they would bear no fruit. But what would happen is, and you think, well, why would you do that, man? That's crazy. What would happen is the ones that were left, these, produced more than twice as much fruit as the ones that got pinched off. And so his apple orchard produced way more fruit than anybody thought it could, because every other year each tree rested. So this year it's like this. Well, the next year he'd let the other trees rest. He kept a little spreadsheet, it's 80s, so paper. But he kept track of which trees rested which years, and he would make the trees rest, and they produced way more fruit. And so the thing is, for a lot of us that really want to be fruitful, we're trying to figure out, like, how can we be more fruitful? The reason we're not fruitful is we're not actually abiding. We're not actually resting. And so this is true, I just want to be clear, this is true on like a physical level and also at a spiritual level. Right? A lot of us are always trying to work for Jesus. Work. Jesus, I'm working hard for you. And sometimes Jesus says, man, I'm your rest. You just need to rest in me. And so I don't know how it is for you. Like last year, or a big part of the year, even though I know this intellectually, it doesn't get through to me a lot of times. For a big part of the year, I felt like I was stuck here. Like I wasn't really fruitful, and I wasn't really resting, and I was trying to be more productive, trying to be more fruitful. But my pendulum just kind of went to here and to here. This is it. This is, over here and then back this way. This is all I could do. I was just going back and forth, and it just didn't feel like I was getting anywhere. And so because of that, I was too stressed. I can't take time off. I got too much to do. Well, the reason nothing was getting done is because I was too tired, right? Mentally or physically or whatever. And so because of this tool, actually, I said, okay, if I'm going to do this, what I'm going to have to do is I need to pull the pendulum back a little bit more. And what happens is gravity, let's get rid of these extra arrows here. What happens is gravity starts to take it over here. You think, well, that was good. Let's pull the pendulum back a little more, right? And then gravity does the same thing, and you get to be more fruitful. And so this is true, as I said, for physical, like doing your job, your office job, or your whatever job you do. I teach, or I sell insurance, or whatever I do. So there's some of that where it's like you need to take good vacations. But there's also a spiritual aspect that's really important, and that is that we want to see fruit in our lives, the fruit of the Spirit. A lot of times the way we try to do that is just by pushing harder. Man, I'm just going to try harder to be patient. And what happens is the harder we try, the less patient we are, right? Because we're trying to live over here without actually coming back and abiding in who God is, right? Resting in God's goodness instead of trying to produce on our own. So as long as we're trying to produce on our own, we're like that tree that just keeps trying to, or that field that just keeps trying to produce more. Until we can learn to rest spiritually in the goodness of God, we won't fully experience the fruitfulness that He has for us. So whether it's like productivity and production and that kind of stuff, or whether it's real spiritual growth, it's really important that we understand this pattern of rest and work, this pattern of abiding and fruitfulness. And that together, if you can learn to push the pendulum up here and let gravity do its work, then I think that what you'll find is you'll start finding a lot more fruitfulness and a lot more breakthrough. All right, that's it for me. I'll see you guys next time.